So let's say you're a midwit burnout or in the lower half of the bell curve. Well, guess what? There's good news. You can surprise everyone, including your own father who thought you were an embarrassment or a failure. This video will give you a rundown, the basic gestalt, if you will, on how to not be a failure as an adult when you were a failure as a teenager. First, a basic path to success. Then we'll discuss careers that any idiot can do and what to do to be able to retire comfortably somewhere warm instead of the bad ending. Step 1, budget appropriately. Save and invest all excess funds in retirement accounts, specifically in an S&P 500 index fund. First off, if you are not that intelligent and you can recognize that about yourself, you don't really need to be investing in anything else or keeping track of your investments. You need to have it where you can't touch it and where you're just putting money in and it's doing its work over time. Step 2, utilize and sign up for all job benefits, especially PTO, which you can't really sign up for. They just kind of give it to you. Vacation pay, which they also kind of just give to you. 401k up to the match, or whatever your company is going to match you with your contribution to, because you can just put the rest of it in an IRA or just put it in a taxable brokerage account after that. A health savings account, if you are making a crazy amount of money, it doesn't hurt to open up one of these. Short and long-term disability. Barely costs anything per paycheck, but it gives you a little bit of insurance against things going wrong inside of the workplace. So if you're out of work for a little while and you can't work, it'll help you be able to maintain your income while you're out of work. AD&D or life insurance. Now, if you have a family, this is an absolute must-have because all of these jobs are dangerous, and it just makes more sense to be able to have those things, especially if your employer's kind of subsidizing and providing policies to you for cheaper. Because typically, employer insurance doesn't necessarily have the health requirements, so if you have a disability or some other medical problem, it might be harder to get life insurance. So if your employer's offering it, go ahead and take it. And you have to sign up for all job training or tuition assistance that your employer offers. Now, step 3, always seek advancement in the workplace. Seek lower, then middle, then upper management. If you're working somewhere and there's a path to go ahead into a job where you have to do less stuff altogether and you get commensurate pay or higher pay, go ahead and take it. Step 4, build experience and don't be afraid to job hop if there's better opportunity elsewhere. Step 5, try to get non-expensive hobbies like the gym or reading or video games, or productive hobbies or things that where if you're making something, you can actually sell it for money. Step 6, maximize your free time through time management. Really, if you have a set schedule during the work week, you should just be putting all of your work, including your household chores and other things, into those days. So that way you can maximize your time on the weekend, unless you're young and you're slightly underemployed, in which case you should probably spend your time with a second job. Step 7, seek property ownership. It is comparable to renting cost-wise, but you get equity and appreciation. Now, buying a house, your mortgage is going to be cheaper than whatever you're renting it for, but when you factor in the cost of insurance and home improvement and other things to maintain the house, it's probably about the same as what you could rent the house for. So the only advantage that property ownership has is that you can build equity in the house, which is almost like a savings because you build up the amount of the house that you own that isn't being financed, that when you sell the house, you get to keep that amount of money, and the potential for appreciation, which is your property value can go up. Step 8, if you can work on cars, drive a shitbox. If not, go ahead and get a used Toyota or Honda and find a good mechanic. The only new cars that you can really buy, or that I would suggest buying if you need transportation and you want to get a new car, is either Kia, Hyundai, or a Mitsubishi. Specifically new ones, because they have all of them have a 60,000 mile basic warranty and a 10-year 100,000 mile warranty for like the powertrain and stuff. And step 9, do not be afraid to move to opportunity or lower cost of living or lower tax. Now let's go ahead and get on to the career section. So the burnout career path. These are going to be the basic careers that I'm going to be covering. So we have the military as an option, transportation, package delivery and mail, warehouses, the trades, and the true burnout option, which is the dude my weed option. So the military. If you pick the military, you are going to go ahead and do an 8-year enlistment at first. What that will get you is 4 years of college paid for through the Montgomery GI Bill, a VA home loan, which means no down payment or PMI if you decide to buy a home. You get SGLI, which is the group life insurance for soldiers, which you can then transfer into a VGLI or Veterans Group Life Insurance policy when you get out. And that's like $400,000 and you pay barely nothing for it. And then also you get TRICARE for your term of enlistment. Now you should finish a degree while in, specifically through online classes. You should max out your TSP, and the only TSP fund that you should be investing in is the C fund, letter C, because that is going to be an S&P 500 index fund, or at least it tracks it. And that's probably going to give you the best stability and return and generally follow the general return of the stock market. If you invest inside of that, do not really consider any of the other funds. And it's debatable whether or not you should be investing in bonds early on. You should really be focusing more on growth when you're younger. Now, the third point that I have is do not get married in your first enlistment. Either don't get married in your first enlistment or until you hit E6 if you take a second enlistment. E6 will give you enough pay that you're not going to be necessarily struggling, and you still get BAH to cover housing and all that, but it's going to provide a lot less relationship strain if you avoid getting married before you hit E6. Because there's a couple of jokes that in order to get E6 even, you have to be divorced at least once or twice to even get the rank. But the truth of the matter is that you do not need that. And you're going to be old enough to be a little bit more mature and possibly find better relationship material by that point. Number 4, re-up only if the bonus is good. If you hit 16 years in, aim for 20 and get military retirement. And if you're going to try to hit 20, go ahead and try to do green to gold, which is moving from an enlisted career to a commissioned career as an officer, because it's better pay and generally it's a little bit easier as an officer. Now, the pros and cons: mid-tier pay, but the cost of living is basically free for junior enlisted because they cover housing, utilities, food, medical care, all the stuff that you could name off. So basically all the money that you make at your job, you're getting to keep. There's pretty good benefits. And to be completely honest, if you're 18 or 19, you have no idea what you're going to do with your life, so you need help until you kind of figure it out. So if you're kind of lost when you're out of high school, military is not a bad option until you find out what you want to do. Plus, it also keeps you sober, except for alcohol and nicotine. That is the only disadvantage. There is a lot of that in the military. So the next career path is transportation, which is the CDL route, or being a gosh darn trucker. Now, it is DOT regulated, which means that there are certain things that you have to meet that are federal guidelines. So you have to be 21 years old and good health. And I have a list of carriers that you can apply with that will actually train you to get your CDL. But then there's a contract commitment afterward where you have to work for them for a little while. But if you're tight on money, this is the better option to trying to get into this career path. Now, the following carriers are Maverick, TMC Transportation, Prime Incorporated, Royal Transport, Schneider, Swift Academy, Stevens Transport, and CR England. All of these companies, if you apply for them, will actually train you to get your CDL, and then you just have to work for them for a little while. The pay is generally about 40 to 60K a year once you're working for these companies, but you can go a lot higher after you build up experience and move into where you're getting cents per mile and being an over-the-road trucker. Now, what you should do is get your CDL, fulfill your contract commitment, which is basically paid experience. You get to put it on your resume. You need to max your 401k and IRA and use your job benefits. Number 4, you need to save and invest any excess money, and your cost of living is going to be low. You can live in a crappy apartment because you're going to be out of your house most of the time, so it doesn't matter. You don't really need to be flexing with a nice apartment or nice things because it's just a place to stay in between working, really. And if you're young, it doesn't matter. Get the cheapest apartment possible. Now, you're either going to switch to an over-the-road company with good benefits or good cents per mile. This will increase your pay or will give you a more kind of cushy career with being a truck driver. And after you've been saving and investing for a while, there's the possibility of becoming an owner-operator, in which case you are getting all of the money for transporting goods from those contracts, and you get to keep it. Now, you do have to pay for gas and everything else like that, but you have the potential to make a lot more money being an owner-operator. Now, the pros and cons: you're gone from home a lot. The pay's pretty good. Any idiot can learn how to do it well, and there's a career path to better pay. Now, next career option, packages and mail. It's not a bad option if benefits and schedule is good, and there's a potential for pay or overtime. Now, I have ranked the following delivery companies. My own personal experience is only with FedEx Ground, but this is what I have heard and collected from a number of other people who have worked for these different companies. Now, UPS, they have low pay at first and you work your way into better paying jobs, but this is probably the number one because the benefits are great and you can get on the pathway to becoming a driver making like $170,000 a year, which is pretty good. Plus it has a union, so they protect their workers pretty well. Number 2, DHL. It's mid to good pay, but the benefits are good. I would like to mention that with packages and mail, there are a lot of regulations, and most of the jobs are DOT regulated or regulated by the Department of Homeland Security if you're working inside of a warehouse, because there's certain things and restrictions that you have to do and security policies that you have to follow. But anyway, DHL is number 2. Amazon's probably, I'd say it's the 3rd place because it's mid-tier pay, but the only advantage is that you get a 4-day work week. So you do 4 10-hour shifts in a week, which opens up your weekend. If you want to work a part-time job on the weekend, that's not bad, but you can have Amazon as your main gig covering your bills, plus you get benefits through the job. FedEx Ground, it's okay pay. The contractors rarely offer benefits, but what it does do is it gives you the ability to fill out your resume to be able to go and work for FedEx Express, which is a lot better because all you're really moving is like envelopes and stuff like that. You aren't getting things like tractor tires and a 200-pound generator on your truck like you would working as a FedEx Ground contractor. And you get full benefits working for FedEx Express. Now, USPS is last place. That's the U.S. Postal Service. And the reason for it is because it's never hiring except for seasonal and as-needed jobs like rural carrier or associate jobs. But there's solid benefits and a good career if you get city carrier. Now, let's go over here. You should work your shift in overtime if possible. Utilize all the benefits. Max your 401k and IRA. Save and invest the excess. Seek career advancement to easier jobs with commensurate pay or equally hard jobs with greater pay, like in UPS. And the pros and cons are, it's a time suck because you can literally be out there for like 12 to 16 hours. There's a possibility of that. The good pay for the skill level that you need. Any idiot can do it. And there's a lot of freedom and solitude. Now, if you've worked in customer service or anything else like that, this is a job where it's just you alone in the truck, driving around, delivering packages. It's not bad at all. If you want free time, if you want to listen to music or podcasts or anything else like that, it's not a bad gig. Plus, it's like a free workout every day. Now, Warehouses can be pretty BS, but can also be pretty chill. So it's a mixed bag. I personally prefer warehouses. I like warehouses, but the following jobs are things that you might find inside of a warehouse. You might have an order picker, you might have palletizing, you might be a forklift operator or be operating an electric pallet jack. There's crane operators and anything with production and packaging. They all offer benefits and decent pay, and most offer a boatload of overtime, and some are unionized. So if you can find a unionized warehouse job that offers a bunch of overtime, that's not a bad deal. Now you should take as much overtime as possible because that's gonna give you a way bigger check. You should seek promotion to management or supervisor positions as much as possible. You need to take the higher pay differential. So if one shift pays more than the other, then go ahead and take the shift with the higher pay and all the other stuff, which is 401k, IRA, save the excess, all that other stuff that I've discussed. Pros and cons. Coworkers, it's a pretty good work culture generally inside of warehouses. Everyone kind of knows each other and it's pretty chill. The benefits and pay are pretty good. Any idiot can do it. There's generally a clear path to advancement, but it can be pretty BS if it's production based. So I would suggest that if you have a production quota or anything like that, meet enough of the production quota to get a bonus, but do not exceed it. You don't need to be some Stakhanovite kind of like, oh, I surpassed my quota by 500% or some crazy crap. Just work enough to get the bonus. That's it. Now the trades, best career, but it takes some trade school. Now some of these jobs, you might be able to work for an employer that will pay for your training, and that's the reason why they're included on here. But if not, you're gonna have to go to a technical school or a trade school to get licensed or certified to be able to do these jobs. Now we have HVAC technician, lineman, electrician, welding, automotive mechanic, sheet metal worker, pipe fitting, basically any oil field job and construction. Now you should work as many hours as possible, use your employer or union benefits, seek promotion to management or a supervisor job, eventually set out to apprenticeship to licensure, then going into business for yourself as a possibility, and all the other stuff, which is 401k, IRA, utilizing all of the benefits, yada, 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 save all your excess money. Pros and cons, takes skill. So this does take skill, but you can learn how to acquire those skills. And if you learn how to acquire those skills, this is a good career opportunity. The benefits and pay are pretty good, and any idiot can learn to be good. Now we have, finally, the Dude Lamau weed option, which is you done effed up, but not all hope is lost. Little to no benefits. You may need to use unemployment or some welfare programs. If you're smart, you either progress to management or supervisor or start your own business, and acceptable for felons and drug addicts. So construction and contracting, doing things like making cabinets, doing a bunch of other things like that, or random construction projects for people's houses and stuff like that. Landscaping and tree work. Tree work pays incredibly well, but there's absolutely no benefits and no protections, and it's incredibly dangerous. Hence the reason why the pay is so high. But if you're sitting there climbing trees, cutting off limbs of trees and stuff like that, you can make like 60 bucks an hour which is pretty okay, but you have to be crazy to be doing it. Now there's food service, which I'd only recommend if you're taking the manager route only as being a manager in food service. General labor jobs, the perma temps, which is if a temp agency offers benefits and you're able to budget appropriately and try hard to not constantly mess up your jobs, it is possible to get by being a permatemp. They don't do background checks or anything else like that, and they rarely do drug tests, which means that you can work in a place, get fairly okay pay for the time being, and generally get moved around to different locations and stuff. And you could use it to build experience and other things, so that way you could get more permanent employment, but it is entirely possible to end up being stuck inside of temp agencies for a very long time. Now, lube and tire technicians. These guys don't give a single shit about anything. Like, I mean, if you get injured, they're going to drug test you, but they don't really drug test for anything. You can be a complete idiot and get paid reasonably well, generally about $15 to $20 an hour to be a tire technician or a lube technician, but you need to seek a supervisor position if you do take this job. And then gas station clerk. Try to become a manager. Most of these offer hourly or per job pay, but absolutely no benefits. Work as much as possible if you take these jobs to maximize your pay. You're going to have to invest in a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA to try to make up for the lack of 401k and other benefits. Really save your money for off-season or job hopping and emergency expenses because you might have to move between companies a lot. And if it's not great pay and little to no benefits, you got to consider private insurance or Medicaid. So if the pay is really good, private insurance. If you don't make enough to be able to afford private insurance, but you qualify for Medicaid, go ahead and take Medicaid for that. Now, the pros and cons is, this is the bad ending, but if you're smart with it and act responsible in every other way, you can survive and later thrive. You have to have both IRAs. You have to save your money. You have to work as hard as you can while you can. You have to seek private or public insurance or assistance to make ends meet. You pay more in taxes if you're a 1099 employee. You pay negligible taxes if you're a W-2 employee, and you possibly pay no taxes, which is not recommended, but possible if it's under the table. But if you do not pay taxes or self-employment tax, you do not get Social Security points, which means that if you get injured on the job or are trying to retire when you're old and you can no longer work in the job, it means that you will not get SSDI or considerable retirement income. Now, these are all jobs that anyone can do that generally pay adequately, have benefits, and are not sales, commission, or tip-based, and offer a path to promotion or advancement, and the way to succeed in each. Check out my next video on how to structure your budget and employment next week. So next Saturday, I'm going to be making another video on what you should be doing if you're a young person and you're trying to make the most out of not really having a career, or trying to establish a career when you don't really have any skills or any education under your belt for anything. So that's all. Y'all have a good week. Bye.